All right. I think we're going to kick things off. All right. So, welcome everyone to Hamina Wireless, the APAC webinar edition. Today, we are going to go through Buzzword Bingo. And so I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to not sort of mention any of the buzzwords that are behind some of the features that I'm going to talk about today. And so, without further ado, we'll get through some slides. And then what I'd like to do, with the majority of this webinar is sort of do a bit of a live demo. Little bit of housekeeping before we kick into the slide content. We do have a webinar chat, so please feel free to utilize the webinar chat if you want. Otherwise, we do have a Q&A as well. So, if you want the Q&A for anything that I won't be able to miss in case the chat gets a little bit hectic, please feel free to put any questions that you might have in there. Now, today it is just myself that is going to be going through the presentation and some of the slides and the live demo. So, I'll do the best that I can. What I may do is I'll go through the Q&A or any of the questions at the very end of it. We should have enough time to sort of cycle through and maybe go through a couple of examples of, some of the new features that I'm going to talk about today. So if you don't know who I am, Grant Shelley, Head of Technical Operations, APAC. So I'm the lone APAC Hamina person. I'm based out of Australia, but I cover the Asia Pacific region. Okay, so just quickly on the agenda side of things, and like I mentioned at the top, I do sort of want to try and get through the slide content relatively quickly. But it's a good sort of foundational component to leap off into the live demo side. So we're just going to go through a couple of bits and pieces. So talking about network design of the future, and so some of those buzzword elements are behind some of those new features that we've got coming soon to Hamina. We're going to talk about site surveys and also like multiple site surveys and what that looks like in Hamina today. So that is actually out in the wild. So if you're a Hamina user, you'll be able to take advantage of that right now. We're also going to take a look at the API side of things. This is something that it is in the general release, so the public release at the moment. But I think it's a good opportunity to sort of recap that and maybe to show some of the bits and pieces that we are doing there as well. And then we're going to go through a live demo of all of the above, and then hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A as well. Okay, so before we get into it, competition time. So I've got a Hamina hoodie here. So I thought, why don't we do a little bit of a bit of a competition? So whoever does the best LinkedIn post is going to be the winner. What I'm sort of looking for, or what we're sort of looking for, is what was the best new Hamina feature and why. So you can take a screenshot, you can just type something in, but just be sure that you are following Hamina Wireless, and also you tag Hamina Wireless on LinkedIn so we can actually keep a track of that. And I will make sure that I send you out one of our hoodies. So yeah, keeping an eye out for that. Okay, so at least from my perspective, and at least from where Hamina Wireless sit, in the wireless tools space, there's a few other competitors in that space as well, and I'm starting to see not just from competitors but also from other technology adjacent vendors. There's a lot of buzzwords that are being thrown around these days, and so there's a little bit of hyperbole with the screenshot that I've got there, and it's something that we've definitely got some of those technologies in Hamina today, but it's certainly something that I'm not trying to, or we're not really trying to sort of push to the very forefront. A big part of what we're trying to do is really just sort of have the technology work for the user, rather than sort of try to lead with some of these sort of buzzwords that we sort of see out in the marketplace. And I'm sure, a lot of people that are on today's session will probably know what I'm talking about. So in saying that, when we get to the next slide, let's talk about the modern network design. So Hamina Network Planner and Planner Plus, you can use that to design wireless networks, so primarily Wi-Fi. With the Planner Plus, you can also design private cellular. We do also, have, from the simulation perspective, Zigbee and BLE radios as well. And so, these buzzword technologies that we're bringing into the Hamina Planner tools, they're going to be able to streamline a lot of those common workflows. And so, the really common workflows and, the laborious tasks, things that people don't really want to do, often it can be down to, scaling a floor plan that we've imported. It can be scoping out the environment. So scoping out from the perspective of what do I want in my scope and what do I want out of my scope, or, boil it down to another level. Where do I want my Wi-Fi access points to be versus where do I not want them to be? And, I think maybe the holy grail of it all would be the walls. So, wall drawing and being able to sort of automate that process and minimize the amount of manual work or the laborious work that needs to happen. That would be something that I think would be pretty nice to have. So, that also sort of boils down to, that faster time to results. We already think Hamina Network Planner is very, very fast, but I think a lot of this is going to sort of speed that up even more so. Now, a lot of these technologies are optional, and so you'll see in the demo, you do get a prompt. It will sort of, ask if you want to accept that, or, you can go the manual route if you want. A little bit similar to maybe like the automatic AP placement or the automatic, planner that we've got in the tool. It's totally optional, but you can utilize it and you can take advantage of it if you want. And so, at a high level, the use case for that, fundamentally, it's faster wireless designs. So you can get to that deliverables component significantly easier and significantly faster versus, having to do a lot more of the manual inputs. Okay. So the other side would be collaborative site surveys. So we go from the design side of things, so being able to automate and streamline that. Now, the collaborative site surveys, this is something that we've already had in the tool for a little while now. So we have had the ability for multiple surveyors to survey the same, the same floor plan or the same map. And, you can, based on how Hamina Onsite is doing its data syncing, you can sort of get these semi-sequential updates of other user input. And so we're sort of taking that, I guess, another step further. And again, this isn't necessarily using all the buzzwords, but this does sort of, help and streamline the site survey process. And so I sort of look at it from, if anyone's watched the Harry Potter movies, and you've got the Marauders map, and you can see where people are on the Hogwarts map on the floor plan. The new collaborative site surveys feature that we've got in Hamina is going to operate in a very, very similar fashion. So you can see up-to-date surveyor locationing. Everything is all color-coded as well, so visually it's very obvious, where different users are in the environment. And then it will also give you current results on the map as well. And so now this is all done in the browser currently. And so you will get like a detailed survey path. So, you'll get, the name of the surveyor, the survey device, which is also pretty important because although I'm going to use the Nomad hardware component today, we do also support, for instance, M series MacBooks. So someone could use a MacBook internal NIC to do a site survey, which is single radio versus Nomad having 4 radios. We also support the WLAN Pis, and they come in different configurations. And so, some of those are single radio as well. And so that may not be, the best approach to doing a survey. It sort of depends on the environment, how big it is, how much you've got to do. So, understanding the survey device can be handy as well as time and date and distance as well. So what does that boil down to? So use cases, from our perspective would be, you can split large sites amongst teams. So, you could have, a group of surveyors start at one side of the building, a group of surveyors start at the other side of the building, and they basically would survey in towards the middle, and they would be able to see, that sort of semi-sequential update side of things. A stakeholder, or maybe like a tier 3 engineer that's too expensive to send on site, they would be able to see the visibility and the real-time updates via the browser. So that could also be used as well to sort of better coordinate the on-site survey component as well. And then of course you get those extra data points in the browser side of it as well. So, the surveyor, the distance, the device, things like that as well. And so, giving a little bit of extra layer of information is always handy. Okay, so the API side of things. So we've had API integration for a little while now, and I sort of break it down as you've got sort of like more of a provisioning import-export style API support for a variety of Wi-Fi vendors. And so, from an import workflow perspective, you can bring in floor plan, AP locations, and AP names, and you could allocate those, those APs against a design that has already been done in Hamina, and then you could export that workflow. So it could be very good for like, new network provisioning, or maybe remediation provisioning or something like that, instead of having to do the busy work in both Hamina Network Planner and your double N, cloud dashboard vendor of choice. It can all sort of be managed from the Hamina side, and significantly streamlines, having to repeat some of that workflow. And so the next sort of evolution of that, and again, this is a feature preview in Hamina Network Planner Plus, is you've got the live view integration. And so the live view, again, we take an API key from from your vendor of choice, and you can basically look at the heat map immediately from the environment. So through an API call, we get the heat map telemetry, and we populate the floor plan with what the environment looks like currently. We can look into AP metrics, so we can click on an access point, we can get some metrics there, so the AP details, uptime, what clients are connected, things like that, as well as client and channel counts. And then we've also got the ability to do client troubleshooting as well. So we've also sort of got that ability. So the use case from that perspective would be, you've got that instant RF network visibility. So, without having to maybe take a Nomad and go on site immediately, or, go to site and do a site survey, which sometimes can take, some time to schedule, take some time to allocate a resource to be able to go out and do that. You can get a pretty good idea of what the RF environment looks like from the, the Wi-Fi dashboard perspective in Hamina. It could be used for remote. And so from that perspective, AP and client troubleshooting as well. So you get a bit more visibility there. You've also got the ability to do some remediation or even redesign work. So for example, with this, live integration, you may have, or you may inherit a series of sites that need to be redesigned, or that may need some remediation requirements. You could basically create a new project in Hamina, just drop an API key in, so you don't even have to import the floor plan, and Hamina will retrieve the floor plan, as well as the AP locations, as well as that live telemetry, and then you could effectively copy that into the design side and start on your remediation or your redesign as well. So it's a pretty powerful sort of component there. Okay, so time for a demo. So I do see there's a question there. I will get to that towards the very end. So just give me a minute and I will reconfigure here. Okay. All right, you should be able to see my screen. Okay, so we'll create a new project here. So I'm just in Hamina Network Planner. We've got the ability to just drag and drop floor plans in. So let's find a floor plan. Now, I'm going to go for something relatively simple just to start with. So I'm just going to drag and drop a PDF floor plan in. Now you'll notice that this is in our test instance. So this isn't in our production environment yet. Our founder and CEO, Yusi, did announce this morning or overnight that this will be coming out into production within a matter of months. So it'll be coming out pretty soon. So all looks pretty straightforward so far, but what you'll notice is down the bottom right-hand screen, we've got this little sort of robot icon here and an approximated 10-meter scale. And so what that means is if I zoom in and I click I go into the scale option here, and I'm going to set a scale. I've already got a scale allocated to me. Okay. And so this will work for PDFs. This will work also for CADs. Even though CADs have sometimes got a scale in there. Most importantly, though, it'll work for things like JPEGs, PNGs, things that are not a vectorized image that do not hold that data. And so it's going to work really well for those type of things. And so I can verify the scale here, or I can give it a manual input if I wanted to as well. But if I verify the scale, now the scale has been set. So, again, that's part of our buzzwords. That is automatically making an assumption based on that scale. And so what we can do is we can zoom out, because next we're going to do the scoping, okay? And so, the scoping, as I mentioned earlier, that's all about, well, where do I want my infrastructure to be? Do I want it to be, within a certain area or outside of a certain area? And so we've got a scoping tool within Hamina here. And so, we can scope that out, and you'll see, we get this little sort of, light blue neon running around the perimeter here, giving us a pretty good idea of what that scope looks like. And you can sort of see down the bottom center here, the auto scope has been found. So I can click on that, and you'll see now I've got a grayed out area, and you can see it's pretty good. There's a couple of small areas, but we could always sort of adjust those if we wanted to. But that is pretty good. Like even some of the canopy components. But again, we can adjust those. Depending on what we want to do. We could add an extra pivot point here, and then we can like so, and then you could adjust that if you wanted to. So again, very very quick and easy to do. So now we've got our scope. And so now the final step here is we've got our walls component here. So, we can click on, this prompt here. And so we can go in and we can do our manual wall drawing, right? Which is what we've got here. But again, similar to the scoping environment or the scoping feature that was shown before, we get this, auto walls found, do we want to accept and edit? And so if we click on that, we get our auto walls, and if we look at that in 3D, like that's kind of what we end up with. So we end up with a pretty good sort of layout of the environment. Now, of course, these are a same sort of DB wall, which we can sort of see here, like an auto-detected wall. We've sort of made the assumption that it's a 5 dB wall. So, maybe a little bit more, dense than, a standard drywall, to err on the side of caution. But it's pretty straightforward if you sort of wanted to, for example, maybe let's not do it like that, but you could very easily, for instance, click and drag, and then you could change a bunch of the walls to a different material if you want. Or we could just jump straight into maybe some sort of an auto plan, for example, and maybe we just jump in and we use like some sort of an Aruba. Let's use like one of their sort of maybe newer higher end APs, and then we can hit auto plan, and we end up with something like this. And so now we've got our design. So not too bad. All right. Okay. So that's a lot of the buzzwordy components that we've sort of looked at. One of the other things that we could also do is, we'll use that one for later, is we could look at just like some sort of random floor plan here, and I was looking for something that was a bit more maybe that one might be a little bit tricky, but what we could do is we could could save. And then what we could do is we could just drag in a floor plan. So you can sort of see we just drag and drop. This should populate here. So we get our first floor. So again, this is, I guess, something that looks pretty, again, like a JPEG image or a PNG. I can't remember what it was, but pretty grainy, pretty average looking. We should again be able to do the scale. So I'm not sure if this is going to work great. Look, 13 meters for a library. That's probably okay. We could scope. The scope's not great, but I could accept that. Could always delete that one up there pretty easily. And then let's see if the walls. Yeah, the walls look pretty good. And so we could do auto detect walls. Done. And then we end up. That's pretty good. So this is sort of where a lot of that busy work is going to be taken out from, right? Where you've got a very grainy sort of, floor plan here. Like, it's not perfect. There's some of the corridor areas weren't drawn in, but I would say maybe 80 or 90% of that floor plan has been drawn. And then, yeah, the user could probably do some manual edits there as well. So, not too bad. To be able to do that type of stuff. And, for anyone that's used design software before, this is probably what we come across most of the time. We don't come across these nice pristine floor plans like what we've got here, where if we switch off the visual and we sort of zoom right in, like this is very high resolution, very, very clear and clean. And, our technology has done a very good job of designing that. But we often will get stuff like this where, yeah, it's written on a bit of yellow parchment paper. It's pretty blurry and not that great. And this is what we can sort of do with using these type of technologies, which is, I think, is pretty impressive. Okay. All right. And I do see the questions coming in. I'll get through the next bit. And then we will go through and we will, or I will answer them. Okay, so the next thing I just sort of want to show is the live view. And so, I'm going to use the Hamina Office in this example here. And so with the live view, it looks very similar to what you may have already seen in Hamina, where we've got our simulation tab here. So this is all our simulated data. So you can sort of see here. I think Dan or one of the guys has gone very extra and drawn in, chairs and things like that as well. So it looks very, pretty impressive. So we've got our design component here. We've got our survey, right? And so this is a bit of a sneak peek as to what we'll see with the multi-surveyor. But you can see Joel's done that survey, and it's indicated where he would have finished the survey. So that would have been his last survey data point there, and it's indicated by the purple survey path. So, if someone else was going to do a survey, they would pop up with their name, and also it would be a different color as well. And then we can jump over to the live tab here. And so you'll see it's doing a little sync, it's doing a little poll, and we can sort of immediately see the heat map telemetry. So for 5 gigahertz, for example, we could look at 6 gigahertz. We could look at 2.4, which we've got entirely disabled. Thank you, Joel. And we've got a bunch of different heat maps. Again, we can poll those through API. And so the other thing that we look at is we've not only can see the 3 different radios here, so you can see the X indicating the 2.4 radio has been disabled. We're on channel 52 on 5 and channel 69 on 6 gigahertz. We can also see, for instance, we've got 2 6 gig radios on channel 5. So for instance, if we looked at 6 gig and then we looked at interference, you can actually see when you hover the mouse over it, will highlight the 2 APs that are operating on channel 5, right? And I'm pretty sure that's a deliberate, in this case here. Go back to 5, don't want to break it. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out is I can see the numbers below the radio indicate the clients that are currently associated to that radio. So I can see, I've got a few clients connected here or associated, but I've got 3 on the 5 gig radio. And so if I click on that AP, you'll see that it will start to give me, what is the AP details. It'll also give me some of the active clients as well. Well, these ones are sort of inactive, so that will populate in a second there, and we'll actually get those clients that are currently connected. So we're basically, just doing a ping to that access point right now. So that'll populate any second now. You can see, there we go. You see, we've got uptime, what firmware version, when it was last updated, and we've got our, currently connected clients. So we've got a couple of Apple TVs, a couple of Chromecasts, is what it looks like here, or a couple of Chromecasts and an Apple TV, for example. So, that's one metric that we can look at. Now, of course, it's very, very early in Helsinki. So, this is going to look a little bit boring. However, what we can also do is we've also got our client view here. And so, we can look at the AP. Okay, we can see, who's connected, what's going on, how are we hearing some of these clients. But then we can actually jump over to the client view here. And then we can actually look up, we've got a search list here, although our list is relatively small because, again, it's very early in Helsinki. And we can actually see a list of the clients here. So I think it was one of the Chromecasts was having a bit of problems. And so we can click on that and we can get some information. So for instance, we can see where the client is currently associated. Right, we run a packet capture from the AP to the client, so we can sort of see here, what's sort of going on. We can push the client off, and so it'll reconnect. And then we've also got here, we've actually got the PCAP as well. So it's not just, let's just look at the client live and what's actually happening. This is probably a bad example because this client looks okay. Maybe I'll try and find the other Chromecast. So I think it was this guy here, the boardroom Chromecast. You can sort of see he's right on the edge. So, and we've already got a bit of a, he's not going very well. So suboptimal client AP signal strength, which is true, right? We're at -71 with this client. It looks like he, approximately, he's in the corner or he's right on the cell edge. And so, he probably doesn't have a very good line of sight with the AP. It could be an older, Chromecast model or something like that. And so, we can look at this from a UI perspective, but then you could also click on our PCAPs and we can actually look at, any of the PCAPs that we've got right now, and I could just download that and then I could fire that up into Wireshark, which is pretty nice. All right. Okay. So that was the live view that I sort of wanted to show. We'll keep moving, and then I do see the questions coming in. We'll probably hopefully have a bit of time to answer some of the questions here. Okay. So I have created a project, and now you can see we are now on our US instance. I've called this Buzzword Bingo, nice and simple. And so I've got 2 different nomads, 2 different survey devices here. So I've basically got a personal Hamina account. I've given myself a bit of a trial, and then I've got my corporate Hamina account as well. So I've got my iPad here connected to my Nomad, and then I've got my iPhone here also connected to a Nomad. And so if I just do a quick screen share here, see if we can get, we'll show you what this is going to look like. 7137. Okay. All right. So I've got my, my phone here, just screen sharing. Now, what I'm going to do, I will just move this just off to the side. And what I want you to keep an eye on is not only the phone screen, but you'll also see that once I start doing a survey, the tab in the back here is going to populate. Okay. And so it's going to populate with a survey tab. So it's going to recognize immediately that there is some survey data there. You'll see that, with this particular project that I've created, all I've done is I've imported the floor plan and I've set the scale just ready for this demo. But we don't have any survey data in the project as of yet. And so I'm going to survey from, and I'll pinch to zoom in, I'm going to survey from the right-hand side on the iPhone, and I'm going to survey from the left-hand side on the iPad. So I'm going to try and do this simultaneously. Obviously, I'm standing in the same space. I'm not really moving around. So the heat maps will look a little bit funny, but it should give you an idea of what is actually going on. And so I'm just trying to figure out how we might be able to see everything. So maybe if we move it over like that, so you'll actually see me populate in this little lounge area as well. Okay, so I'm going to start the survey on the iPad first. So you'll see it start to populate on the left, and then we'll go. So we're going to start with a continuous survey here. So you'll see this will start to populate, and I will start to survey here as well. And what I might do is I might just hit refresh really quick. And there we go. So we've got our surveys, and you can sort of see we've got the two Grant Shelley doppelgangers here, and you've also got my sort of survey happening. And so you can sort of see as I click on the map, it sort of updates in the browser as well. And so, if I move the map down here, if you're watching on the iPhone screen and I click in the center here, you can sort of see the icon moving as it sort of moves to update as well. And I can sort of do a similar on the side here as well. So okay, we might just hit refresh one more time, and I'll bring this back up, and we'll go up to here. There we go. So we're starting to, and so you can imagine, and internally we've tried to sort of break this. It does work incredibly well. You could be, sort of in mission control, keeping an eye on how people are doing their survey around the environment. And you can sort of see here that it works pretty well. And I'm trying to sort of juggle this all at the same time. So we're going to move up to the top part here. We'll move to here. And you can sort of see, so one of the things that I do like about on-site is it does also sort of update the heat map in real time. So if I wanted to, I think I need to stop my survey first. So we could end here, and then we could stop the two surveys like that. All right, and then and we can stop that for a second. Okay. All right, and then so we end up with something like this. And so we should end up with all our SSID information and whatnot. And so you can very clearly see we've got two different surveyors. You can sort of, one is my, personal email, the other is my corporate. But, you could obviously see that, if we had multiple surveyors, that would all sort of be very, very clear. And then if we look at the survey paths, we sort of end up with, it took, Grant Shelley, corporate Hamina Grant Shelley, 2 minutes. He covered 64 meters. Using an Ossium Nomad, and of course, the doppelganger Grant, he wasn't quite as good. He took longer and he covered less ground. So, maybe we need to performance manage him because he's not surveying very fast. But you sort of get the idea that's sort of the intention. And so you can, splitting large projects, over that are very, very big with multiple surveys. is incredibly possible now using this sort of technology as well. And so the other thing that I wanted to show, and this has come in the latest update for the Hamina on-site app, so I probably shouldn't have disabled my my iPhone just yet. We have released a pretty big update to the on-site application, and so we've had a lot of people asking us, when are you going to introduce spectrum analysis? And so that is definitely something that we have in the application now. If we jump into here, we've got our real-time view, but currently at the moment, I do not have a SpecAn connected. So I've got my Oscium spectrum analyzer here. I'll plug that in a minute. But if you've just got the Nomad without a SpecAn, you will get a little bit of detail regardless. And you can sort of see here as we zoom in, we do sort of get, you will get, and you get a little bit of a bar graph here. It's going to look a little bit boring in my environment, but you will get, things like the spectrum density and things like that as well. So, for instance, maybe if we do a wireless test, we'll see how that looks. But you can sort of see here, we can going. There we go. See if we've got the right channel here. There we go. Okay, so speed test has started, and you can sort of see what's going on there. So you sort of get things like the utilization metrics, and this will cover both 2.4 as well, right, as well as 6 gigahertz. So you've sort of got if you don't have the SpecAn, you will still get that extra layer of information, things like the utilization, the client count, which can be incredibly handy to have in a pinch. If we do plug the spectrum analyzer in, and so we can just double check this and go back into our options, and you can sort of see we've got our Wi-Fi Lucid. We can jump back into our real-time view, and we can sort of jump in, and you can sort of see the spectrum is now live in the environment as well. We can jump over to 2.4, and maybe I'll introduce a little bit of interference, and you can sort of see it sort of update as well if we want. We can again jump back over to 5. You can see it's pretty quick, but can pinch to zoom in for higher resolution. Okay, sorry about that. Lots of talking, needed a drink of water. Okay. Now, the other thing that we've also got is, if I unplug my my Nomad from my iPhone, right, that will disconnect. We can stop the mirroring. I can also plug it in to my MacBook. And we have also bought in packet capture for AirTool 2. So you'll see I've got the AirTool application running up the top here. It will populate. It's detected the Nomad. I can open that up now, and so I can do a tri-band for radio capture, depending on what I'm looking to do. And so I can just start that capture now. I've just clicked go. I'm not sure if I'm on the right channels, but then when I stop, it'll just automatically load that PCAP up into Wireshark. So yeah, pretty nice. Okay, now the bonus, one last thing that I sort of wanted to show, and then we'll go to the questions, is we did cover last week at WLPC, and if you're not sure what WLPC is, it's a big Wi-Fi conference over in the US. Really, really great. We had an evening event at WLPC, and so you can sort of see here, not the best floor plan, but it sort of did the trick. And we did multiple surveys. And you can sort of see here, we've got different surveyors. If we go into the survey paths, you can sort of see there's a bunch of different people that were doing site surveys there as well, which is really, really cool. And so one of the other features that we've got in Hamina is we have the ability to do some environmental learning based on the survey data. And so, we call that survey to attenuation. And so, if I've got my survey data here and we've got these surveys all over the place. If I switch back to my simulation, you can sort of see I get this optimize option here. And so if I click on that, basically, Hamina will say, if you're done with your site surveys, I can optimize your network planning using the survey data that was captured with the nomads or your survey device. And so fundamentally, you don't have to necessarily draw in any walls for your network design. So, if we sort of go through and we want to optimize, and that all looks pretty good, we can go into our AP list. And we've got a Juniper AP here. We can click on that, and you can sort of see how, if we move it outside of the environment, you can sort of see we get this, this nice round shape. But as we move it in these different areas, you can see how it totally changes depending on the environment. And this is purely based on the surveys that have been captured in the environment. I can move it down here. You can sort of see where different radios were audible and things like that as well. So it's one of those other things where, if you've got survey data of the environment already, maybe you have to go out to do some remediation work. You can use some of that to then put back into the design without having to fully, build in a lot of the walls or anything like that. But then, we've got, coming down the pipe, soon to the public release, some of these buzzwordy technologies that are going to allow you to, automatically draw in walls and things like that as well. So, yeah. Okay, so that's going to be it for the live demo. I've seen there's been some questions coming through quite a bit, so we might sort of, I'll go through those and I'll try and answer them either live or I'll, verbally, or if I feel that we've got the time and it'll warrant it, I will do a demonstration of what people have been asking for. So if we start from the top, basically around like data storage. We've got a bunch of different and security concerns. We've got a lot of compliance around the security side. The back end is all Microsoft Azure. There is a security page on our website that does go through that. Otherwise, we do have a bunch of security documentation that we can send anyone that is sort of, a little bit worried about that, provided we sign an NDA. So we've got all of that sort of covered. From the data that is entered into Hamina, most of it is, and maybe the most sensitive is really the floor plan side of things. But with a lot of components here, people don't think about how, or often don't think about the floor plan's probably already sitting on some sort of a cloud hosted, environment anyway. And so that could be OneDrive, or, some cloud provider. It could also be used or emailed through like Office 365, which means it's going to be going through the cloud anyway. So there's a lot of components there as well, but we do have a lot of very stringent security protocols that we follow to make sure that data is safe and that it's that it's not accessed by bad actors. Okay. So with the Live View API, will it collect the RF metrics of the surveying device, or can it collect the metrics of another device using MAC identifier? Example, surveying while walking with one or multiple RF barcode scanners. Not currently. I think I see what you're looking to do there, but yeah, not currently. So the RF metrics from the survey device, we are only pulling the metrics that we get from the vendor API. If we go back to here and we look at the live, you know, we've got an iPad sort of over here, but this is really how it is. It is heard from the infrastructure side of things. I think I know what you're talking about, and maybe we need to talk about that in a little bit more detail. Um, if you're looking to do like the barcode scanners or anything like that. But fundamentally, the data that is being input on the survey side, that's all using the on-site app. On the live side of things, at least currently today, it is us running a packet capture from that infrastructure to the device that it is currently authenticated to, and so that's how we're able to sort of get these metrics. And also, get the PCAP side of it as well. What are the platforms being supported for API calls? Yep, really good question. So currently, if we look at live analysis, we've got the following that are sort of in there. I'm showing the Juniper side, but you more or less get the same results with the other vendors that are in there as well. And we've got more that are coming very soon. So if your vendor isn't on there, it's really great if customers ask them, because it sort of helps push that along. But we're constantly talking with other AP vendors to get this level of functionality in as well. Will you be able to search for individual APs in the software? That's a really good question. So not currently. I think you're talking with the live view when that question came up. So not specifically. So for instance, if we just look at like the AP, you will get some of those sort of metrics in there, but I'm pretty sure this has already been. Oh, we do pull that from. Okay. Yeah, we may have to talk about that in a little bit more detail. It's not something that I've specifically looked for, but if I just do a Control A, it will show me the AP make. But with some of the calls, we do get the AP name, but I don't think that it would populate in here, at least at this point. So yeah, so I'm not. I don't think we currently do that, but that might be worth a follow up, regardless. So okay, I might leave that one up so it reminds me. Okay, next question. Any plan to lock different coverage requirements to specific areas? I'm sure that has been considered. Currently with our coverage areas, and if we look at, maybe we just open up one that's not going to break. When we've got like currently, basically our coverage is, it's universal across the board. If you wanted to have different coverage requirements, it would probably be more for the capacity side. And so, with capacity, you've got like a capacity zone that you could draw in, and you could add, a number of devices, and then based on the simulated access point that would be placed, it will basically, it will go red, based on the client. So if we look at maybe hospital. And then let's see here. Yeah, we've put capacity in. Yeah, so you can see, so you've got like the capacity numbers here as well. But if we wanted to, we could maybe add, more capacity into a particular area, and we could just say like there's 5,000 devices. Is that going to override it? It should. Yeah, there we go. And so you can sort of see there. That's, I guess, how we would deal with that right now. But yeah, I'm sure that would be coming. If not, we do have. We do have a feedback.hamina.com. So I will put that in here, just in the chat. Um, and so yeah, we've basically got different, different requirements in there as well. And so you could put something like coverage, and it will probably be in here uh, somewhere. It may not necessarily be under coverage, but most of the time I do encourage users to sort of go in here and to be able to change some of those metrics as well. Okay, is there a template for different Wi-Fi requirements, like data network versus RFID style, etc.? Yeah, I think I just answered that. I'm pretty sure you're talking about the same things. I would definitely recommend, if it's not already in here, and it will automatically search and try to align a pre-existing suggestion with your suggestion. But if it is brand new, which I'd be very surprised with, I'm sure someone's already voted for it, but put it in there, and it'll get upvoted, and then that gives us an idea of what people are most looking for as well, and then we can put it into production. And so we've already done that for a number of different different elements. So you can see here we've got a few that are already in development. We've got a few that are already, we've admitted that yes, we will put that. We've got that planned. All right. I might talk to you outside of the webinar, Michael, on WLPC, but yes, I was at WLPC last week. If you are in that Wi-Fi space, I know it's a bit of a trek to get to Phoenix, Arizona, but it is wholly worthwhile, and it was really, really great. So yeah, definitely recommend, for anyone in the APAC region to get out to WLPC if you possibly can. Plan to add specific notes, AP specific notes for installers. So that is definitely coming. And so, at the moment we do have notes of various types. So I don't really want to break anything, but we can maybe move some of these layers off to show. Where are we? Note. So we've got notes here. So you can add an image, you can change the color of the note, you can change the icon type. You've also got the notes that are on the that you can take picture notes in the on-site app as well. And so there's that. Yeah, but we are going to be working on like an installer report and reports in general, and so that'll sort of be I guess sort of one of the next things that we'll be working on to significantly improve upon. So I'll say that's answered. So will this be recorded? Yes, it will. We are recording this. We will put it up on our YouTube page for sure. And then thanks to Paul regarding the award from WLPC. So yeah, for those that aren't aware, there's a Wi-Fi awards. And so, different vendors can get nominated for different products and, and culture and leadership and things like that. We did win a Wi-Fi award for the live view that I've just sort of taken you through before. So yeah, very, very nice to get some recognition in relation to that. Okay. So, look, we might, I think that was all the questions there. I've gone through all the different bits and pieces that I wanted to show. So I guess, from my perspective, the buzzwords are great and all, but I think they've got to have a tangible use case. And I think, what we're starting with, where, it's got the ability to automatically scale a project, automatically scope out a project, or a floor plan, automatically, draw in walls. Those are pretty, menial tasks that I don't know necessarily if everyone wants to be doing. And I know, if I've ever talked to a customer about drawing in walls and things like that, their eyes tend to glaze over and they get very bored very quickly. And, it's not something that people necessarily want to do. I do find that the manual wall drawing in Hamina is very intuitive and very easy to use. But, when you've got large campuses and large projects, it can get a little bit tiresome. So I think that this is going to take a lot of that busy work out of it. And then, it's much easier to just edit, at a later stage, what those raw materials may be. So the other thing, I guess, site surveys can be quite costly. You've got the hardware component, and we've split the spec-am and the Wi-Fi radio components out, so you can sort of pick and choose, as a Hamina user, which one you would, you would, whether you want to have just the Nomad or whether you want to have the Nomad with the, the Wi-Fi Lucid. And sort of go from there. So spectrum analysis is an absolute key, like some sort of a KPI that you need for all of your site surveys. You can add that in. Otherwise, you can just use the Nomad. And like I was showing before, you've got a lot of that, utilization, things like client count and whatnot, built into the tool today that you can take advantage of as well. The live API integrations, I really think that this is where the future is sort of going to go, particularly from the API side of things. So if that's not something that that you're playing around with or that you're experimenting with, then yeah, I think definitely take a look at that. Talk to your vendor about what's available. They've all got API integrations to differing degrees, but I think that that's where a lot of the future is going to be heading. So just the last thing to wrap up. Sorry, I thought I was getting another question there. The last thing just to wrap up, if you want to learn more, go to hamina.com. Otherwise, if you want, please reach out to myself, grant@hamina.com. And then, of course, don't forget, I will send out a hoodie to someone who puts up a really good post on LinkedIn. Just make sure that you do tag Hamina Wireless, and make sure you're following Hamina Wireless as well. Otherwise, I think we're done. Give everyone a few minutes back in their day. Hopefully see you on the next webinar. We'll probably do that in a couple of months. But thanks everyone for your time, and have a great rest of your day. All right, bye for now.